Apple tried to buy the Stargate franchise more than once. Welcome to SciTrek, your sci-fi TV and movie channel. Right, now this was actually something I heard quite a while ago, but I never really bothered telling anyone because, well, I didn't think it was that important. But actually, with news I'm going to tell you about in the next video, it's become a little bit more important. So let me give you the background. Apple actually tried to buy MGM first. Before Amazon even got involved in buying MGM, Apple did put an official bid in. The thing is that Amazon came in and basically doubled it. So Apple tried to pay 3 to 4 billion region for the MGM brand and IP, whereas Amazon paid well over 8. Now, obviously, the reason why Apple did that and was trying to buy MGM was because they desperately wanted the IP. They just undervalued it. I would argue that actually James Bond alone is worth probably $2 billion. So a $4 billion, $4 to $5 billion bid, I would say, was horribly undervaluing the MGM brand. Apple, as well as a subscription service, Apple Plus, desperately need new content. They've been trying to get new content for a long time. Now, for them, buying MGM would have been very similar to what Disney did when they bought Fox. Disney wanted to do a streaming platform. They realized that they didn't have enough content on their own, so they bought Fox. They brought all of that content together, and now Disney Plus here in the UK is probably the best streaming service we get. Apple need to do the same. They need to buy IP. Now, they can produce new television, they can produce new movies, and they have been. They've also bought movies that maybe didn't go to cinema. For example, there was the Tom Hanks movie a couple of years ago called Greyhound. Now, it was about to be released just before the pandemic. They realized the cinema release wasn't any good, so Apple just went, well, we'll have it. And they just bought the movie and put it on Apple Plus. They've also obviously had quite a few original series, very good ones as well. But buying something like MGM, where you then buy a massive catalogue of back products as well, something that you can immediately put onto Apple Plus, but also you've then got a massive back catalogue of IP, intellectual properties that you can develop new projects from, would have been incredibly exciting. And to be honest, would have meant that I'd have subscribed to Apple, which I don't currently. Now, Amazon beat them to the punch, and Amazon are going to be able to take advantage of all that IP. I'm actually told, though, that one of the things that Apple were interested in, just like Amazon were, was the Stargate franchise, because they desperately want a big sci-fi franchise on Apple. They are currently desperately looking for something. And I can also tell you exclusively that they have actually spoken to Paramount about potentially developing a Star Trek series on their own. Now, at the moment, Alex Kurtzman has full control over Star Trek, but according to some sources, that's changing, and that Paramount are really pulling away from Alex Kurtzman and trying to get Star Trek out of his production company's hands. They want to go in a different direction. Now, I did a little video a little while ago about selling Star Trek. Now, that sounded a little bit dramatic, but basically all Paramount are currently looking at doing is reverting back to what they were doing just a couple of years ago with Star Trek and allowing other companies to step in and produce the television shows for Star Trek in cooperation with Paramount instead of Paramount doing it themselves. And then those TV shows worldwide appear on those other streaming services. For example, Picard in the UK was advertised as an Amazon production. Discovery, the first few series, were advertised as a Netflix production, and they were shown on those streaming platforms. Please like, subscribe, and hit the bell notification if you are new to the channel so you don't miss any of our new videos. Also, if you really want to support the channel, consider hitting the join button, and you'll get all of our Thursday videos 24 hours before anybody else. All of the links are in the description. Apple wanted to do the same. They wanted to produce their own Star Trek series and put it on their streaming service, and it be an Apple production. Now, I'm actually told they're still looking at that. And if it is true that Star Trek is being pulled away because Paramount Plus is kind of failing and Paramount Plus worldwide might kind of fizzle out a little bit, then we might actually get to see a Star Trek series on Apple. But they're also still interested in Stargate. And I hear that just a couple of months ago, In the end of August, early September, Apple did actually approach Amazon and ask them about taking on the Stargate franchise. They wanted to basically rent it off MGM, produce the TV show and potentially movies, etc. themselves, and put them on Apple Plus, making Stargate the big sci-fi franchise for Apple. Now, at the moment, Amazon wants Stargate to be the big franchise for Amazon. They don't want to let it out. But it is interesting, and it does support this idea that actually Stargate is really the sleeping giant of sci-fi, that even when they tried to buy the company and it failed, they still went after one of the big franchises and were hopeful that Amazon might actually let them have it. Now, I'm going to play a little bit of a fantasy game now. How cool would it have been if Apple had got hold of Stargate? I actually think if Apple had bought MGM, we'd probably all be a lot happier right now. Because out of all of these streaming services, the cash-rich ones are actually Amazon and Apple. But Apple even dwarf Amazon. So Disney are actually having massive financial problems at the moment. They're losing anything up to $500 million a quarter because of Disney Plus. Now, I say they're losing money. They're choosing to spend that money, and they're not making it back, obviously. But they're trying to make Disney Plus the biggest streaming service on the planet. They're trying to overtake Netflix. They're spending money to make money. But they are still losing money hand over fist. Amazon have actually had their own financial difficulties. During COVID, their share price, etc., was massively overinflated. Because everybody stayed at home, we started buying stuff off Amazon. Now there's been a correction and the reality set in, and their share price has dropped quite dramatically, and they've also massively overspent on projects like Lord of the Rings. So they're not as cash rich as they were, even though they do have the finances to pretty much produce any TV show they want. HBO is in massive financial problems and they have huge debt. Paramount owes nearly $20 billion. Again, massive debt, and they actually are struggling to pay it off. But Apple, on the other hand, was just the first company to go through valuing itself at $3 trillion. Over the last 3 or 4 years, it's tripled in value. Apple Plus comes free with almost every iPhone sold. And that's the main way people subscribe. Probably the most cash-rich company on the planet. They can afford to spend massive amounts of money on Apple Plus if they choose to. And they seem to be gearing up in that direction. Obviously, they've produced some really impressive television, but they've never really had that big signature TV show. So kind of like what Amazon tried to do with Lord of the Rings, and it kind of backfired on them. But Apple, if they had got their hands on Stargate, people would have followed that. Because Stargate, like Battlestar Galactica, like The Expanse, like Babylon 5, and shows like this that I keep talking about, they have really loyal fan base. People will subscribe to Apple Plus just to watch that show. Like people subscribe to Paramount Plus just to watch Star Trek. I actually think it's possibly a massive shame that Apple didn't get its hands on this franchise, because I think potentially they could have done something really exciting. I see what they did with Jason Momoa's C project, for example, and I just think, damn it, they could have done something really brilliant if they'd have got Stargate onto that streaming service. But they didn't. But, and here's the big one now, they're still looking for that big sci-fi franchise. It looks like they might not get Star Trek. They're definitely not getting Stargate. But is there a possibility that they could be getting another big sci-fi franchise that is currently off our screens that we would love to see return? Well, that's going to be for the next video. If you are new to the channel, please like, subscribe, hit that bell notification so you don't miss any of our new videos. Also, if you want to become a fully fledged SciTrekker and really support the channel, consider hitting the join button, where you get all of our Thursday videos 24 hours before anybody else. As always, please stay safe. I'll see you next time.